All right. Thank you, Frank, and hello, everybody. I'm Anna Hunsinger. I'm joined today, by the way, with someone that I'd like to introduce you to real quick, Mr. Lawrence Williams, who will be co-presenting with me today. I'll tell you a little bit more about him momentarily. So let's get started. And thank you very much for the invitation. And what I plan to do today is to tell you a little bit more about the Minority Servant Cyber Infrastructure Consortium, and then seg into this really exciting set of opportunities through an NSF Pilot Center of Excellence. And we're going to cover a little bit as to what, where we are, where that effort is, and give you an update on not just that set of activities, but kind of where we are today and a little bit towards where this is heading to. And again, I'm going to be joined by my colleague, Lawrence Williams, who's on week 2.5 of having come on board as the new director for the Minority Servant Cyber Infrastructure Consortium. Before I start, I think it's important that I note a couple of facts. You may already know these, but I think it's important that we bring them up. You know, today there are more than 700, I could be out of date on this, but no less than a significant number of minority servant institutions in this country that enroll nearly 30% of all undergraduates in the US higher education system. MSIs vary substantially in their origins, missions, student demographics, and the levels of institutional selectivity. But in general, these institutions provide such an important gateway to higher education, okay? MSIs are traditionally defined by one of two overarching categories: historically defined or enrollment defined institutions. Historically defined MSIs were established with the express purpose of providing access to higher education for a specific minority group. They include historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, and tribal colleges and universities, TCUs. There are 5 other MSI types that are fairly designated based on student enrollment and other factors like institutional expenditure thresholds. Those would include Hispanic servant institutions, and then 4 other important ones that I'm happy to also put in the window momentarily. But these are important distinctions too. Also, by way of telling you a little bit why me, as here sitting both as a representative of the consortium, but also a person representing Internet2 here today. It's important that I mention that in spring 2020, Internet2 was approached by a group of chief information officers and other leaders from HBCUs that were leading an effort to coalesce a collaboration of MSIs to work together to reduce the gaps between HBCUs and TCUs campus networks and the global R&E ecosystem. It is important that I note also that in 2018, through an NSF-funded pilot project, there was an important set of activities, and from which a consortia collaboration emerged that included Clemson University in partnership with South Carolina State University, Claflin, Jackson State University, and Morgan State University. And that's really what also enable what I'm about to share with you, which is the Minority Servant Cyber Infrastructure Consortium. This is a transformational partnership to promote advanced CI capabilities on HBCU, HSIs, TCU, and MSIs campuses, advancing connections across campuses around data, research computing, teaching, curriculum development, professional development, and capacity building. This vision that I'm putting in front of you is really important, and please read it. I think what the important things to mention here is the vision around engaging as full contributors and participants to the global research and education space, and the learning and growing as a consortium. lifting all of the participating institutions by advancing their CI capabilities for research and education. Okay. All right. The MSCC is guided by these really important principles: inclusion, innovation, and stakeholder value. It's important that I, say a little bit more about these. Dignity, respect, diversity, equity, and trust are advanced based on productive engagement and the principle of equitable voice. Nothing about us without us is one big driving value here for the MSCC. Creativity, learning, dialogue, and action being advanced through mentoring, coaching, collaboration, and the principle of being hard on the problem, not on each other. And voice, governance, independence, interdependence, safety, risk, and reward being advanced based on the principles of accomplishing together what cannot be accomplished separately. So these are really important guiding principles driving this effort. In terms of purpose, the consortium is exploring and developing effective strategies and leading practices so that its campuses may use to empower their students, faculty, and staff to access and become more effective users of the advanced research and educational CI at their campus, but also at a regional, national, and international level. The consortium is also further dedicated to extending and enhancing the reach and impact of campus and national research computing infrastructures to institutions with minority-serving missions to promote research conducted at the campus level and through multi-institutional collaborations. And last but not least, the consortium is dedicated to providing and sharing in-career development activities, curricula, and training for professional CI staff and faculty, researchers, and students. This includes supporting campus research computing and data efforts through enhancing interactions among both professional CI staff and researchers so that they can better utilize, share, and prepare a workforce that's so important for the future of this nation using advanced computing resources. And as you can see, there's some really important stakeholders here in all of this effort as well. Okay. Seguing a little bit more, as Internet2 got engaged, again, first the request of a number of leaders from the institutions, Internet2 has been going on a journey here on a really, I would say, enlightening, but very educational, but very humble journey as we've gone down this path. And one of the things that we did seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago, was to work with this group, first of all, to listen, but to also understand a little bit more, what is the current state from these institutions, but as expressed by these institutions. So we were able to work and collaborate to have, and by the way, this wasn't the first survey because there were a couple of previous efforts that we built upon. And when Internet2 got involved here, this particular survey that you see referenced here was tremendously helpful so that we could get a better sense at that point in time around, what are the priorities as expressed by the stakeholders from these institutions. And then through this, some of the themes, general buckets of themes that emerge in this effort really help shape a number of things that then went into a proposal that was submitted to the National Science Foundation. There's a lot more I could say about this effort. Some of the general buckets of things were around the need for high-speed connections, broadband, but also other things beyond the network, the access to cloud resources and high-performance computing capabilities, but also big component on the need for the people infrastructure. If you want to see a lot more of the results, we have a number of webinars and other things that you could visit. Take a look at that link and you can see a little bit more. Okay, moving on. I am your humble principal investigator for what Kevin mentioned was now a funded NSF CI Center of Excellence Demonstration Pilot. As the PI, I work with a fantastic team, not just of my co-PIs, but also of the participants from the MSCC. You can read a little bit more. The award number is right there as well. And we're really grateful at the opportunity that the NSF has put in front of us to advance a number of the things that are referenced, as I mentioned, in this vision around this transformative partnership for the HBCUs, TCUs, and other MSIs. I'm calling out here in this kind of grid format the 4 key objectives that under which, of course, there's a lot more that we could say, but it's really important that I emphasize that these, in the 2-year pilot Center of Excellence, our hope is to get as close as possible to achieving or creating a path for delivering on these objectives. First, and again, not that these are in any priority order, but important that I mention, it is really important that out of this effort, we're creating a path for a connective organization that can be there at the service of these institutions for their CI needs, advocacy, guidance, and expertise. There's a really important component around awareness and the things that will enhance the professional development opportunities for the people at these institutions, from faculty, staff, and students also, and their important contributions to what we're all doing in this R&E space. There's another big objective, which is enhancing the communication that's so important between practitioners, researchers, and the university leadership, but also the CI professionals as well. And last but not least, there's an important component around awareness that can only lead to better access to and utilization of CI resources from these institutions, but also leveraging community resources as well. This is a little bit more on the important scientific and broader impacts as well. I'll give you a moment to read these. I personally find it really exciting to be part of an outstanding team from the Minority Servant Cyber Infrastructure Consortium, and where we spend a lot of time talking about the opportunities to really make an impact here that's much more broader than just now, the startup of activities that we have. There's significant opportunities to really advance a number of things that could benefit our society at large. And you probably heard from Alan already on some of the important action items here. So, all that you heard also around the missing millions front and center are some of the things that are really also driving how we're approaching, together with the MSCC, the impacts that we could have in the long run as well. Okay, I'm gonna, the project or the award from NSF happened effectively on October of last year. Since then, we've been really busy. There's a lot to do. I just want to give you, I know this is hard to read, but a lot of work has been taking place to move us along and to do what we said we were going to do. A number of things certainly have started getting in motion, including providing some structure to this effort, but to also start advancing activities around some categories that have to do with, again, these 4 objectives that you saw a few slides ago. And through the award, we have the opportunity to also focus on the important part of having resources also dedicated for this effort that's being advanced. And I'll be introducing you to one of those resources momentarily. But there are also a number of activities that we have started moving on that revolve around, the aspects of workforce, and also collaborations around the CI ecosystem and activities also that need to happen at some of these campuses. Today, with great pleasure, because I think today is the first public opportunity that we have, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Lawrence Williams, who just a little bit over 2 weeks ago came on board as the MSCC director. And Lawrence, are you there? Can you say hello so people get to see you for just a couple of minutes, for a short set of seconds? Where are you?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I'm delighted that I get to introduce you to the new director of this effort. And I am going to now work with Lawrence to tell you a little bit more where we are. And Lawrence, why don't you take it from here and take us through the next slides?
All right. Well, thank you, Anna, for the kind introduction. I want to start by saying it's an honor and privilege to be selected as a director of the MSCC. I'm grateful to have an opportunity to work with Internet2 and the variety of professionals that I've met in the last 2 weeks. I appreciate their efforts in taking on such a task that's important to my community. I'm a graduate of an HBCU, so I do understand the impact of the long-term work that we'll be doing here. For today's presentation, I want to start with just some highlights that my new coworkers have achieved over the last 6 to 9 months. They have done a tremendous amount of work and activities around a couple of things. First, we'll start with the stakeholder poll survey, which is something that we're going to be going in a little more detail shortly. Also, there's been a lot of work going on with the planning and organizing of 2 cybersecurity workshops scheduled to take place this spring. The workshops will center on protecting, ensuring a robust research infrastructure. We're also in the process of identifying additional resources to advance the MSCC's efforts to become a center of excellence. And of course, we have our ongoing monthly MSCC meetings that are open to all. And if you have some time, I would encourage you all to participate just to kind of see how we're moving forward. Members of the MSCC, in conjunction with the communications team from Internet2, have also been working tirelessly behind the scenes to update our websites, to have a place for us to post the various links and webinars, and maintain a place to update our activities. One of the data points that I personally found interesting as I started was the interactive maps of HBCUs and TCUs and MSIs that the members of the MSCC and the Internet2 have created to show the various data points of our serving institutions. And if you have a chance, take a look at that map. It's really insightful on the data that's been collected thus far, and it shows a lot, right? Not just the location of the institutions, but it has a variety of data on their makeup, and we've used that data to help us identify some of the needs for those serving institutions. Next slide, please. Prior to my arrival, the MSCC worked with the Waymark Analytics, which is a spinoff of NSF, to create a pulse survey. The intent of the survey was to provide data so that the MSCC can align our efforts with the communities that we're serving. The information provided situational awareness of not only who are the stakeholders, but what are their prioritized needs. In order for the MSCC to be effective, we must be a data-driven organization. The survey identified priority areas such as science DMZs, cybersecurity, cyber infrastructure, workforce development, and so on. We're going to go into a little bit of the poll survey here next. Next slide, please. So we can see here the rank order of the topics and how they've been prioritized. During the poll survey, respondents were asked to rank their greatest needs on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being the greatest and 1 being the lowest. And what we found that across all participants in the survey, that cybersecurity was the #1 need, followed by funding for advancing cyber infrastructure, and then followed closely by cyber infrastructure tools and methods. Being a data-driven organization, we are now using this information to determine how best we can add value to the participants within our servicing communities. We're working with Internet2 to determine what resources are currently available in order to have the greatest impact on this in the specified areas. We're also in the process of determining if there is a need to acquire additional resources to support the institutions to enable what is possible through a secure infrastructure in support of advancing research. We do understand that there is a tremendous amount of funding available, but it's not just the availability of funding, it's how can these institutions properly implement the funding in an efficient way and apply these resources so that they can have a better environment for their institution and for the students that attend. Next slide. As we continue to study the data, it is also clear that there are differences in the priorities between HBCUs, TCUs, and MSIs. This is important because we do understand that it's not a cookie cutter approach, that it's not just one size fits all. We're incorporating this information in the development of how we will support our communities, and as we further stratify the data and engage with the participants, it is also clear that each institution is unique in their specified needs. So as the MSCC is expanding and growing, we're organizing in a fashion that will be able to address specific needs with each institution, in addition to becoming a value add for all organizations on a greater scale. Our intent is to become a center of excellence. We want to be able to provide resources and expertise that a member institution can refer to, not only when there's a need, but they have the confidence that just in their daily operations, that there is a source of expertise that can help them in a variety of ways. Next slide. As part of the survey, participants had an opportunity to provide comments. The feedback has been insightful. I haven't been able to read through all of the comments, so we've highlighted a couple here. And here's what I've seen. We've taken the liberty to organize the comments into specific categories. Currently, security is front and center and is emphasized the most. Reading through the comments, it's clear that there's a need to expand various elements of cyber infrastructure throughout the serving institution. And when we talk about security, there's a variety of elements of security. So it's not just providing a tool for the institution to use, but it's also governance, policies, and even the development of a workforce who understands security so that they can be a part of the cybersecurity workforce of the future. Funding has also been identified as an important part. But again, I do want to emphasize it's not just funding in itself. I don't think any of the institutions just want to be given money. They want to have a way to implement the funds in a way that will help their specific infrastructure, right? So there's different needs to build their cyber infrastructure to a standard across the board where then they can participate in sharing data, using data visualization tools, and actually getting to various levels on the research scales. Next slide, please. An argument could be made that each of these comments could fall into the category of funding. However, what I see through the comments for our serving institutions is the need for a variety of resources to be able to provide a cyber ecosystem composed of hardware, software, security, and most importantly, the infrastructure will contain people with the right expertise that can maintain the environment and maximize the benefits through research and workforce development. Funding dollars are always going to be important, but again, it's the application of these dollars within this environment to come to a nationally recognized standard. Next slide. Anna, back over to you.
It would help if I unmute myself. Thank you, Lawrence. So today we wanted to give you a preview. There's a lot more that's going to be shared. We're really excited about not just getting started, but there's a lot to be done. I want to thank OSG and all of you and the community for not just the support that you have expressed along the way, but also the support that now needs to be reiterated in our working together. The resources, and I mean not just all of you, but also the resources that come through OSG are certainly of very much ought to be leveraged here. And we're really looking forward, and I'm speaking on behalf of the MSCC, for the opportunities to collaborate with all of you and with the OSG community. And I welcome any input as the PI, but also now with Lawrence on board. I'm going to put our email addresses here so you have them. And please reach out to us. I don't know if we're going to have time for questions, but we'll take them. I'm going to respond to some of them on the chat window. If you want to join the MSCC, today, what we have is really simple. You can join a mailing list, and from there, we will be able to share with you everything that's happening. You can learn a little bit more about upcoming meetings and activities and so forth. Please visit the website for more information on that. If you're, I know we went very quickly over some of the results from the surveys that we have done. You can go to the MSCC website, but also the Internet2 website, and there's from webinars to also a lot more that you can find there. And if you need more, feel free to reach out to me or to Lawrence as well. So again, we're super excited about not just getting started, but all the work at hand. We need collaboration across the nation here, leveraging efforts that are important in the community as well. And I'll be remiss if I didn't thank the National Science Foundation also for putting us in this map and the potential here. As Kevin mentioned, MSCC can be a prism here that will enable us to see all kinds of different things, both in ways that we're familiar, but also in new ways. So I encourage you to get involved with the MSCC, and thank you, everybody, for inviting us today.
Thank you, Anna and Lawrence. There is most of the questions have been answered already in the chat, so there's been a very active chat here. I think the last one is a question to you guys. I would like to conduct the MSCC survey at my institution. Is that possible?
Let's see. So the last survey just wrapped up, but maybe what we could do, Mr. Powell, is make sure that you are, your institution is in the next survey that we're going to be doing. So if you want to just contact me directly, I can make sure that we include your institution on the next one.
Okay. Any other questions, comments to Lawrence and Anna?
I will jump in without the chat. How do you envision a relationship between between consortia? So we are a consortium in OSG. Is there any blueprint on what does it mean for us to get involved as a consortium, not as an institution?
So I would like to start with this. So there is no blueprint, and this is what's exciting for me. We are in uncharted waters. So we do want other organizations to get involved, because we do understand that this isn't something that we can do all on our own. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, please reach out to me. I'm sure that we can incorporate your expertise or the expertise of the OSG into what we're doing as the MSCC.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Just say, this is Joel. I'm going to add in, if I could, because we've seen a number of consortia form relationships with each other. And They sometimes do MOUs, they sometimes do joint initiatives. I will say, and Lauren was there, we had a ecosystem workshop that was NSF supported about a year and a half ago, in which we challenged everyone to draw a picture of the ecosystem of all the consortia. And no one was successful. We had a tree, we had a house with rooms, we had arrows with circles and lines. And so I think it's still a challenge for people to say, how do consortia accomplish together with other consortia what they can't do separately? And I think exactly as Lauren said, this is a time for institutional experimentation. And so we encourage you to be bold, to take key steps. And as you do so, you're following what I call the Columbia University Library Strategy. When Columbia built its library in the square beforehand, they didn't put in any sidewalks. They just put grass, and they waited to see where the grass got worn down, and that's where they put the sidewalks. And
yeah, but Joel, following the Columbia example, it was based on individual needing to go from one point to the other. So I wonder whether there are some initial thoughts about specific activities that we can take, some small steps that take less than a generation, to say, okay, let's see what we can do in 6 months or 8 months together. And frankly, that goes beyond yet another workshop, and not to take away from the wonderful work that you did on the report, yet another report. Because you cannot feed the hungry with workshops and reports.
So yeah, I think that's really well taken. And if I had to pick one area that we keep hearing about, it's right around workforce development, that everyone wants to be part of that conversation. But Lawrence, let me give it back to you and to Anna, because MSCC, I think, is an important partner in that regard.
So I will say I absolutely agree, and I'm in the process right now on figuring out how can we do things today to build a better tomorrow within the servicing institutions, especially around the area of workforce development. So we have some ideas. Again, it's not solidified yet. We're not just going to do workshops. We're not going to just, provide applications to help with security. We are going to figure out a way to put in a system that will help produce the future of research and the workforce in the moving forward. So I have some ideas around that. Again, it's not solidified. I would love to talk to you offline because we're still forming it. And I have a straw man I've shared already with the MSCC leadership team, what that could look like. And again, it's not locked in stone, but we do have some ideas around it. So this is the time that if anybody wants to participate, please share your ideas and we can incorporate that because we're ready to move forward in that area.
So let me quickly throw some small idea that may involve immediate action on the table. We are running in OSG a summer school. We are accepting applications. Also had workforce development. Can we do something? In the past, with law involvement, we tried to talk with one of the HBCUs to bring in. We reserved some seats for them in order to bring them into the school, which is a week, hopefully in Madison. So maybe that is a place where we can make a small dent in the millions. But even a million starts with 1 and 2.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk with you offline and we can see how we can work together with this.
Yes, and thank you, Miran. We have a pending invitation also to Frank and Lauren and others to join a meeting with the MSCC. And thank you for bringing up that great opportunity to move faster here. in this summer. So we'll put that in the docket for things to also discuss. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, Anna, if I remember correctly, I also owe you a list of institutions that we count among on the MSIs. Basically, from the stats that you saw earlier in the introduction, I will send you and Lawrence the actual institutions that count the numbers, so to speak, so that we have a sense of who's already engaged and what is happening, and so that maybe that can be built upon in some way by the both of us.
Thank you, Frank. That'd be great. As soon as you're able, that list will come in very handy. Thank you.
I just want to appreciate that this is moving into a problem-solving, brainstorming, generative mode, and I really want to appreciate that. You use this forum to throw out, as Maron did, ideas.
That's who we are.
Any other comments, questions? I think we're 9 minutes over. If I see my clock right, is that correct?
Yeah, but we kind of bleed into the quote unquote lunchtime. That can also be a discussion.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I know where we're at with this.
Yep. But this is essentially a break time. So if the discussion continues, that's a good use of the break.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions, comments?